Happy Thursday, everyone. So I got this OU battle against PengX, a very cool guy and also a pretty good friend of mine. He actually happens to be one of the mods on my website, so we get to talk pretty often. Definitely stop by and check out his channel afterwards. I'll put a link in the description as usual. So I'm leading off with a Skarmory, he's going with a Rotom Wash. I was thinking his Scizor might have been choice banded and he might have chosen to lead with that, because usually I have Tyranitar in the lead position. But yeah, he just leads with the Rotom, so that puts me in a pretty bad spot. So I just went to Celebi to take the predicted Volt Switch, but he ends up double switching out for some reason to his Tyranitar. Not sure if he has Volt Switch or not, but that is pretty bad for me. So I actually decided to switch out my Celebi in this case, because Tyranitar seems to be his best stealth rocker, so I thought he might just want to set up rocks on the switch. And I also think that I can't really do that much without a nasty plot boost, because even Giga Drain's not going to do that much in the Sandstorm. So yeah, he does go for the Pursuit, and I went to Terrakion and then double switched to Heatran, predicting him to send in his Gliscor, because this is an offensive Heatran, so it does mean that I'll be able to outspeed it and take it out, hopefully, if it's the standard set. But he ended up going back to his Rotom Wash. I'm not really sure if he just wanted to sack it or something, or if he somehow predicted my prediction switch. So yeah, maybe getting into triple layer predictions, level 3 predictions, that's when this game starts getting really fun. So yeah, I'm going to go into Celebi again to take down his Rotom Wash, but he manages to go back to his Tyranitar and trap me with Pursuit. So that takes out Celebi a really early game, which is going to be pretty bad because it means his Rotom Wash is going to put a lot more pressure on me. But now I'm thinking that maybe his Tyranitar is going to be Choice Scarf, because I know that he usually likes that set, and it does seem to be running a little bit more attack than usual as far as the especially defensive set goes. So I take the opportunity to set up Stealth Rock with my Heatran while his Tyranitar is presumably locked into Pursuit. Then I'm going to go into my Latias because it's the only thing I have left to switch into his Rotom Wash. He ends up missing a Will-O-Wisp on the predicted switch though, and it's not too bad because Latias doesn't really mind the burn, but it is kind of unusual, even though I guess Will-O-Wisp doesn't have that high accuracy. So I'm going to switch out into Heatran because I'm thinking maybe his Rotom is actually Scarfed since he doesn't have leftovers. He ends up going to the Scizor though, so that's going to force him out of course. And I do hit Rotom Wash as it comes back in with a Flamethrower. This time it's kind of unlucky for him though because I actually end up getting the burn with Flamethrower. So of course that's only a 10% chance, which is pretty unfortunate for him. Gonna go back into Latias just because I really don't have anything else I can send in. But at this point, he actually decides to reveal Rest on his Rotom, which was kind of an unusual move. At first, I was wondering if he was maybe running like a Sleep Talk set, but it turns out that he actually had a Chesto Berry, so that's actually a pretty cool set. I haven't really seen it too often, although I believe Scizor used it one time. So it does allow for a pretty good recovery, especially from status ailments. So on this turn, I'm actually going to predict the switch to his Tyranitar and just roar it out to get a little bit of Stealth Rock damage. It does look like his Tyranitar doesn't have leftovers though, so that's going to make it a bit easier to wear down with entry hazards over the long run. I end up roaring him out into his Gliscor, and even though he might have Taunt, I'm just going to go into Skarmory for the initial turn, because that should be able to handle it pretty well, and if it does use Taunt, I can just switch to one of my other team members to take it down. So he ended up switching to his Tyranitar to try to trap my Latias, but I go to Skarmory and just set up a layer of spikes. I'm reasonably sure that it doesn't have Fire Blast, because just from the way he's playing it and the Pursuit damage output on Celebi, it does seem that it's going to be a Choice Scarf Tyranitar, which means that he's only going to have physical moves, of course. So I ended up going to Tyranitar in this case. He misses a Will-O-Wisp on the switch with Rotom. And just looking at my team, it seems that Tyranitar is actually not going to be that useful. Probably the least useful member of my team right now, so I'm pretty safe just sacrificing it for extra momentum right now. Really, having a sacrifice Pokemon is really useful in terms of getting back your momentum in this game. So yeah, he misses the first Will-O-Wisp, but gets the second one because I just decided to stay in with Superpower. Doesn't really do that much, which is why I go for Fire Blast the second turn, which is actually going to do more than it after Will-O-Wisp and the attack drop. I also used it just in case he decided to switch to one of his Steel types to maybe set up on my Tyranitar or something. So at this point, he's going to go into his Gliscor, and I do miss the Fire Blast. He's going to set up a Substitute, actually, and I'm not really sure which set this is quite yet, but it does seem that Skarmory is going to be a pretty good switch-in. It's pretty rare for Gliscor to actually have Taunt and Substitute, so I'm just going to Whirlwind, predicting the switch in this case. And he actually gets sent into his Scizor, which is even better for me. I believe I have Stealth Rock and one layer of spikes up right now, so I do want to get up one more layer just to put a little bit more pressure on his team. Really, he's got quite a few Pokemon that are vulnerable to hazards, so it's really going to help me out in this case. he's actually going to U-turn out of Skarmory into his Rotom Wash, and after Stealth Rock and the Sandstorm damage, that's going to be just enough to kill it off, which is really great because the only switch-in I had left was Latias, and of course that's really prone to getting trapped by either Scizor or Tyranitar with Pursuit. Now on this turn, he's actually going to go into his Dragonite, and I thought that this would most likely be the Dragon Dance set, but just in case he's running Mixed or something, I wanted to switch out into Heatran to absorb the possible Fire Blast, because Skarmory is still really useful in this match. Luckily, I run Timid and Max Speed on Heatran, so I actually outspeed most Dragonite with HP Ice, and that does manage to take out Dragonite, as well as Gliscor, and he has both of those, so that's pretty useful in this battle. But he actually does go into his Tyranitar to take the HP Ice. Thought about actually going for Earth Power to hit it on the switch, but then I decided I really don't need to take the risk, especially since I've already gotten up some hazards anyway. So yeah, really no point in risking the over-prediction. So I'm actually going to go into Tyranitar to take the Super Power. Even though I have the Chople Berry, it's just going to KO me. But the main point in me setting in Tyranitar was actually just to sacrifice it, because as I said earlier, I don't really need it, so it was just kind of a turn to regain momentum for me. So he's going to go back into his Dragonite. I'm just going to set up a third layer of spikes, and I'm actually going to just stay in this turn. It does seem that he only has Fire Punch, so that's not going to do too much to Skarmory, being a physical move, of course. So I'm just going to stay in this case and go for Whirlwind. He ends up just using Outrage, though, either predicting my Whirlwind or trying to hit Heatran as it switches in again. So I actually end up phasing him back out into his Tyranitar. Really doesn't matter too much, though, because he just ends up dying to entry hazards anyway. If he managed to survive, I actually probably could have taken the opportunity to either roost off the damage or maybe Whirlwind him away for some more entry hazard damage. But yeah, he's going to go into his Lucario, and I actually stay in at this point to take the close combat and Whirlwind him out, because I really can't afford to let him set up, especially if he's running like the Nasty Plot set. That can even get past Terrakion with Vacuum Wave, so it could potentially sweep my team if I let it set up. Really, the best option is just going to be to stay in with Skarmory at this point. So he's going to go back into his Dragonite, and I do want to conserve Skarmory at decent health for handling the rest of his team members, so I'm going to go back into Heatran at this point. Luckily, he goes for the Fire Punch, so I at least get to conserve my Air Balloon, and I'm just going to finish him off with Flamethrower at this point, because it's going to hit his remaining Pokemon harder than HP Ice is. I mean, I really don't think he's going to switch out anyway, but it's just enough to finish him off right now anyway. So he's going to go back into his Lucario, and right now I'm actually going to go into Latias to either take the predicted close combat or just try to switch into it as Death Fodder. And I at least have confirmed that it's not the Nasty Plot set, so at least I'll be able to check it with Terrakion. Now here I actually rush a little bit because I was trying to just finish him off with Dragon Pulse, which probably would have been enough after the close combat defense drop, but I actually rushed it like I said before and clicked Roar instead. So yeah, he ends up finishing me off with Ice Punch, and I probably could have kept Latias, which would have made things a little bit easier later. But yeah, I'm still going to be able to finish off his Lucario with my Terrakion. He goes for the Extreme Speed, but of course that doesn't do too much to Terrakion at all, because it's resistant. So yeah, I do manage to finish off his Lucario with Close Combat. That's one of the things that makes Terrakion a really good revenge killer, by the way, that resistance to normal priority. It actually makes it a very solid check to Extreme Speed killer Arceus and Ubers, but yeah, that's kind of irrelevant considering this is OU right now. So he's going to go into his Gliscor as I switch to Skarmory. He just went for that Earthquake to try to finish off my Terrakion, so I'm just going to take the opportunity to go for a Whirlwind in this case. He's actually going to switch out of his Gliscor and go to his Scizor, and of course I'm going to Whirlwind that away, so that is going to kill off his Scizor when it comes in next turn. Now, I still haven't determined exactly what Gliscor set he's running, so I guess it could be kind of problematic if it's the last Pokemon, because Brave Bird would have been a lot more useful in this match, but I actually was using Taunt this time, so I could have used that to finish off his Gliscor, but in this case, I'm really not going to be able to touch it with Skarmory if it's his last Pokemon. So yeah, I'm going to Whirlwind him as he sets up a Swords Dance, and that is going to finish off his Scizor, but like I said, this is going to bring him down to his last Pokemon, which is Gliscor, and here things are going to get pretty problematic for me, because Skarmory doesn't really have anything to do against him. I guess maybe I could PP stall him, but I really don't want to go through all those turns on Wi-Fi, and I'm not even sure if I would win over the long run. So I'm going to switch to Heatran to check him with HP Ice, and here he actually reveals Acrobatics. Completely forgot about the Swords Dance Acrobatics set though, and that's going to be really bad for me because it means that he breaks my Air Balloon, and he's even faster than me because most Gliscor sets aren't, which means he gets to finish me off with Earthquake. So at this point I'm going to be forced to switch into Terrakion to finish him off, And really glad I didn't miss because he does seem to be running Sandvale. So yeah, really great match. Hope you guys liked it.